This is our Socratic Seminar on Learning to Read and Write by Frederick Douglass. When I was reading the passage, some stuff jumped out at me, like words of diction, really big importance and stuff. Like, throughout the passage you can see like words such as equal and brute and stratagems and injurious, and like even the where it says painful, relieved. These are all like words of emotion and feel. They have a deep meaning. Like they were all representing kind of his feel about slavery and how the discrimination that was keeping him from achieving his goals. Like he was relieved that he was finally getting a chance, getting moving. Painful, it was hurting him that he was being held back. And like things such as brute, that's just the attitude everybody had towards him and colored people as a whole. And he wanted to be equal. That's like one of the big things. Equal was a big one because that's what he was fighting to be. That's how he wanted to be. He wanted to be one of everybody. He wanted to actually have meaning as a person.
And one of my questions, going along the same thing, it's about diction.
I said, and like, my question was like, what was the purpose of that? I kind of explained it, but what was the purpose? He had a deeper meaning behind all of it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna go ahead and ask my question because it like goes exactly like that. So mine, I pulled diction from page 100, the first paragraph, and then page 103, the first paragraph on that page. And my question was, the author uses diction that creates imagery in the listener's mind when he uses words like mental darkness, brute, and writhed, cursed, wretched, horrible pit, and agony when describing his forced enslavement. And what impact does this have on the reader? And I said that this use of diction with such a negative connotation forces the reader to imagine the horrors of his life when he was a slave, and it makes them sympathize with him. And the use of words like writhed and wretched and agony, in my brain anyway, it makes me think of torture, which I guess that's kind of what he was saying his life felt like as a slave, because he even talks about how he didn't want to be alive because he couldn't be free. And then also I said mental darkness emphasizes the slaveholder's belief that the slaves have no business learning anything, and brute shows that they didn't even view him as human. So, any more on what impact does this have on the reader about either of ours?
Oh yeah, I agree with both of y'all on that, because like the words he used, like you said, it helps you get a mental image, a picture of what's going on. It's like the words mental darkness, I just like kind of puts me in that sad kind of tone, like where it's just nothing. And so yeah, his word choice was like, it was very good, because like you said, it helped draw a mental picture.
And all of those words had like a deeper meaning. Like they wasn't just there to write, they were there for a reason.
And I wrote on mine, I wrote diction/imagery because it is diction, but it creates imagery in your head, so that it's kind of the same, because the words make you feel something, but they also make you picture things in your head.
And like, another way I think about it, the way his vocabulary is so broad now, it kind of shows like how he went from not knowing anything at all to just like now when going back and writing this book, it's just so like.
He uses words that I have no idea what they mean.
It makes you question, like, how far did he go? Like, did he really have higher education? Did he make it to university or something?
It's like he just really was determined just to know everything. It's like he's very intelligent and mature and just, wow.
Because there was a lot of words in there that I didn't know.
Yeah, no.
I had to look a lot of them up.
Yeah, I had to look a couple of them too, man.
But that's kind of a big thing, because he started out as a slave, not being able to read, and people being discriminated and thinking he wasn't going to be able to read, and to writing something like this that's so detailed and so proper. And his grammar is probably better than mine.
It's way better than mine.
And he's totally self-taught. I mean, reading and writing, we were saying we didn't know anything about after that, but
exactly. And
that's cool.
Yeah, and he did all this like at a real young age.
That takes willpower.
Exactly.
I don't have that kind of willpower.
Cause like I think he said he started to learn to write when he was like 12. So like he started all this by himself like when he was young. So that was impressive.
My question kind of goes along with that, where it's like talking about how he writes, where he learned to write. On 104, I think, it says the last sentence of the passage. It says, thus after a long, tedious effort for years, I finally succeeded in learning how to write. And my question was just about how he was motivated to write, and like maybe his mistress not teaching him maybe had a little bit of an impact on that. And also like just seeing the other men and like if they had asked him, did he know how to write? And just the other little boys and how they didn't know how to write, and weren't there like little white boys that you said had less of an education?
Yes.
That he felt smarter than because he knew more.
And he even got some of them to like teach him how to write. He
Like-
said that he had that trick.
He'd do it where he'd
Uh-huh.
trick them into teaching him. Like he would say that he can write better than them, and then they're like, prove it. So he writes them, and they show him up, and so he'd
learn the letters
by
they
that.
wrote.
He was smart.
Yeah.
He was cheapest.
And you can tell on 105, it's going along with what you said, about during this time my copybook was the board fence, brick wall, and pavement. My pen and ink was a lump of chalk. Like that shows that he didn't have anything to learn how to write, but he learned it anyway. Going back to what we said about willpower.
Like, it makes me think, like, a lot of people take it for granted now. He did everything in his will, just, like you said, learn to read and write. He used chalk, anything he could find. Right now, we're just, like, trying to type everything, because, like,
Yeah.
we don't want to fool with it.
Like he would talk about writing anywhere. He would write anywhere. He just wanted to do. Then I also had another question. Like on page 104, there was an anecdote in the about halfway through the page. It started with, I went down to the wharf one day, down on the wharf with Mr. Waters, and seeing two Irishmen unloading the scow stone, I went unasked and helped them. When we had finished, one of them came up to me and asked me if I was a slave. I told him I was. He asked, "Are you a slave for life?" I told him I was. But the good Irishman seemed to be deeply affected by the statement. He said to the other that it was a pity for the fine little fellows and myself should be a slave for life. He said it was a shame to hold me. They both advised me to run away to the north, that I should find friends there, and that I should be free. I pretended not to be interested in what they said and treated them as if I did not understand them, for I feared they might be treacherous. But I think that's really giving a lesson of the racism. Like it's like racism at the like because these people were Irishmen. It wasn't completely the same over in Ireland as it was here. Like racism is taught. Like it's not just born into you. So they might not have been taught that, and that's why they said he was free. Then again, later on he was talking about that there was some people that would advise slaves to escape to the north so they could go get the bounty on them and return them. But that's just a thing. Those people could have been genuinely good people and wanted him, thought slavery was wrong and that he should be free because he should have, slavery was wrong. And the fact that he was helping them out and they believed he was a good person, that shows that racism isn't born within you. It's like something you pick up on and you're raised to notice that, and that's all you really think about unless you've never been exposed to it.
I wrote almost that exact thing next to this, and I said that it shows that he had been treated so harshly by white people that he learned to mistrust all of them. Even if they'd been good, he learned to be so wary because so many people had tricked him and had been rude.
That's like
I
what he
feel
said.
like-
When opposed to it, when he was sold, he still had that thought in the back of his head that they could have just
I feel like it's sad that he said that he kind of had to pretend like he didn't understand them and like he's learning to write and he's learning to be smarter. That that's an opportunity that not a lot of slaves have, but he had to kind of dumb himself down to them because he wanted them he didn't want them to think that he was that smart. And I think that's kind of sad when you're proud that you have that intelligence, but then you have to pretend to other people that you don't. It just kind of makes you difficult.
I kind of think it's another thing that kind of keeps them enslaved. They really can't enjoy their lives because they don't know who they can trust because they can show parts of their life and they go tell it back to their slave master they can get punished. So they really couldn't just enjoy life at all, really.
There's always that thought of being
Captured.
Well, a question I had refers back to, I think, page 104.
104 was a good page.
No, it was 103. 103. And it says, As I recall and contemplated the subject, behold, that very contentment which Master Hugh had predicted to follow my learning to read had already come, and to torment and sting my soul, and to anguish it. And that goes to my question where I was wondering, did the reason behind his master not wanting him to learn to read and write, was he really trying to protect him from understanding reality of what's going on? To, like he said, now he kind of, like he started later on feeling that he shouldn't have learned to read and write because he really started understanding things for what they really were. And it kind of had him restless because he really couldn't take it at the time.
And one of my questions that I had kind of goes along with that. I said that it had an antithesis or antithesis. We argue over how you pronounce that. And I said that that was used so that the parallel structure would contrast the kindness of his mistress when he first met her, and then how she changed to brutality. And my question was, why did this change occur, and how does his language highlight this? And the quote that I pulled that from was on page 100. It's on the top of the page. The tender heart became stone, and the lamb-like disposition became one of tiger-like fierceness. And I said that that parallel structure, it draws a contrast to how she was so nice and tender when she met him. And then it said that her husband was like, no, he doesn't deserve to learn. No, he's not human. And she became really mean and brutal and racist. And I said, what Kalem said earlier, racism is taught. Nobody is born racist. It's taught. You're taught to hate.
That's like,
Oh.
she would have taught him perfectly fine unless her husband
Yep.
said.
And I said that the white boys he befriended, we talked about this, that also exemplifies this because they didn't know to think anything less about them. They were his friends.
They were just going along with it. They didn't think anything about his color or anything.
Yep.
He was just another kid.
I had something that went along with Latrell's quote too. On 103, kind of around the same place but around where he stopped, the author says that he at times would feel that learning to read had been a curse rather than a blessing. And so, like, when I was reading that, my question was, what made him realize that? Because the whole time that he's learning to read, he's like, yeah, I'm learning to read and it's such a great opportunity, and as a kid, and he's tricking people into teaching him how to read, even though it's like illegal. And it's just when he learned to read, maybe he had read something that, I don't know, like maybe it opened his eyes kind of into the world of racism, and where he read that like a lot of people didn't like him.
He started understanding it.
He started understanding it more. And so it's kind of like before he knew how to read, he was naive and he was like a child and he didn't know anything. Like our children now, they don't know all of the bad in the world. But then when they start to realize it, they start to get scared and they start to feel bad, and it really is more of a curse.
That's when he realized that maybe it wasn't worth it, because now he's experiencing things that he didn't want to experience, and picking up on things that he doesn't want to see because it's discrimination.
Yeah.
And I think that he wasn't ever really like, oh, I wish I hadn't learned to read. He probably thought that sometimes, but I think deep down he was glad that he learned to read and write. He just didn't like what it brought his attention to. He didn't like the fact that it opened his eyes to all of those bad things, and it made him realize what all he was missing out on. He didn't really know it. He didn't know any life other than his own until he started reading.
That makes me wonder if he would have known what he would be opened up to, would he have still learned to read?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like I have another question that kind of relates to all this we were talking about. It's just a general broad question. Can the ability to think at times be a curse? Be like difficult to take at times? Like I know there's times like if I didn't understand things, I probably wouldn't have thought about it as much, or
like the whole thought of war. Like, just thinking about that war is kind of scary, and like you don't want to think about it, but it's you can't avoid it sometimes because you know about it, and that's just, it's a personal thing, and it kind of traps you into thinking about it because that's, the media promotes it and everything, it relates back to your life and somehow.
And there's that old saying, ignorance is bliss, which I don't really believe. I believe that, you know, I believe knowledge is power, not that ignorance is bliss.
Kobe Kalem, Jay Patel, and Jeremiah Cook report to the office, please.
Maybe this is kind of varying off of this, but I think it like comes back to connect to this. Matthew, like he is 8. My little brother is 8, and he is just like carefree and not a worry in the world. But then like we started talking about Hillary, and Mom would talk about like the bad things that she's done. Like he would hear stuff on the news, and so now like sometimes he like will cry because he doesn't want her to get elected, because he hears all the bad things and he's like scared. And it's really sad when a kid is opened up to the real world and they're scared because they're kids. They shouldn't be scared. They should be living like carefree lives.
Yeah, ignorance can be bliss. It's just according to what the situation.